Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland Reviewer, and welcome to Lost in Wasteland, where each week I have a guest come on and we get a better perspective on their outlook on movies. And this week I have my friend Val from Ryder, and we've known each other. Oh, now I'm thinking it's been a while. So,
It's been at least 10 years.
yep. But Val, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So we're gonna hop on in and always like to ask this question. I even asked my class today when I was doing my icebreaker what their favorite movie was. But Val, what's your favorite movie?
I have to say it's Lord of the Rings, which might be like a little cliche or nerdy, but I can watch that movie without getting tired of it. So that's always what comes to mind when I'm asked that question.
That's also my answer to this question. So I
Oh,
really
cool.
appreciate that. I have two giant Lord of the Rings posters hanging in my office at work. So
My
I
friend recently got a poster, like a large poster for her wall of a map of Middle Earth, and I thought that was super cool.
that is super cool.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's what real cool kids like. The nerdy cool
Go.
kids. So
Exactly.
there you go. But yeah, I love Lord of the Rings, and it's a special kind of day when you make the decision to watch all three of them.
I haven't done that in a very, very long time, but I did recently rewatch The Fellowship a couple months ago
Nice.
and enjoyed it just as much as the first time.
I watched I watch at least one of them every year on my birthday. So like I take off from work and like I'm watching at least one of them today.
That's a great tradition.
I remember seeing Fellowship when I was 10 years old in the theater, and my aunt didn't check the runtime. And we had somewhere to be. So we left after 2 hours, and I missed the whole last hour of the movie.
Oh no.
Obviously, I've watched the whole thing plenty of times since, including as I'm sitting here and I have my box set of the extended edition sitting over there. One of my first nights of college, that was my first ever Amazon purchase. I found out that there was extended editions of Lord of the Rings, and I bought them. And I stayed up until like 3 o'clock in the morning just watching all the extended scenes.
That sounds amazing. I believe my parents bought the extended box sets like not long after they came out, and so my brother and I would go and like watch the extended versions and all the deleted scenes and the bonus features, and that was a lot of fun, but I lost all of them. I don't know who lost them, but they're not, but I think they are on Hulu or one of Prime maybe.
I would assume that they're on HBO Max. Don't quote me on that, just because it's a Warner Brothers property with like New Line Cinema and stuff like that. But they're on there somewhere.
No, I think you might be right. I think it's HBO.
But always wonderful watch. Now, Val, what's your earliest memory of going to the movies?
Well, speaking of, it is going to see The Fellowship.
There you go.
I think I was, I don't know. So what was that? 2004, the first one?
2001 was when yep.
Okay, I was 7 or 8 when that came out, but I still remember vividly. And my parents took me and my siblings to see all 3 movies of the trilogy on the premiere night. So
awesome.
That was fun. It was like a big event, Theaters were packed.
We had this very special childhood, It's like Lord of the Rings were a thing. And then I was just talking to one of my other friends, interviewing them about Harry Potter. And it's just like having both of them as a kid growing up and those movies coming out was just like, it was a big deal.
It was. I wonder what like the Gen Z version of that is. Hunger Games, maybe, or I don't know.
I guess Marvel movies.
They did get pretty big, yeah.
So I was even talking about this today because I think everybody saw SpiderMan, all $725 million that it's made domestically.
For the newest one?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet.
Well, you can eventually, if you want to, you can add to that ridiculous amount of money that's made. It's like the only movie people have gone to see during COVID.
So wait, was it not good? Was it?
I I borderline loved it. I had a
Oh,
lot of fun
okay.
with it, and people have gone again and again. Like I know people have gone to see it 6 times in theaters already. To
Wow.
be fair, there's not a whole lot out either. Like besides that, Scream's out, and
Yeah.
that's about it. It's also January, which generally there's just trash comes out in January anyway. But yeah, Spider-Man has it led the box office for 5 straight weeks. Then Scream beat it, and then it beat Scream, so now it's number 1 again.
Wow. Okay. I
Sony's just printing money.
I mean, good for them. I wasn't planning on seeing it because I haven't seen the last like I saw the original trilogy, right, with Tobey
Tobey
Maguire. Is that his
Maguire,
name?
yep.
Yeah. And then I didn't see any of the newer ones with the different actors. So
Andrew Garfield. You know what's
yeah.
funny is I brought this up in my class. Like one of my students brought it up in my class today, Spider-Man, because I had an Avengers mask on. I wear an Avengers mask. And somebody made a comment and they're like, and I'm like, did any of you even see Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man in theaters? And I'm like, were they even born for the
Were
first one?
they?
Some of them weren't. And it made me feel really old. Because
Oh
the first
my
one came out in
God.
2002.
I
Yeah,
definitely
because like
thought
they're 20. That movie's 20 years old this year.
that's so weird. Oh
The
my God, it's only gonna
freshmen
get
in
worse.
college were not born.
Wow.
I don't like that feeling, but it's true. But I do recall all three of my experiences going to see Lord of the Rings in theater. Very special.
Yeah,
Now,
agreed.
Val, do you have a particular favorite genre of movies?
I like genre or I like drama.
Okay.
Um, I I can definitely sit for an extended period of time and really get into like a slow, dark, engaging story.
Mhm.
I know it's not everybody's speed, but I do enjoy it.
I had one of those moments today where my graduate assistant was asking me for recommendations because she's trying to get out. She's an international student. She was trying to go out and do different things. And I showed her Princeton Garden Theater. I'm like, oh, this is a great film. This is a great film. She's like, I need something lighthearted. I'm like, none of these are. So, which it's funny because I know before we started recording, we were talking about I went back to Princeton Garden Theater and saw Drive My Car, which that's a 3-hour drama. So there you go. And there's some intense, just like very human interactions in it. And it's just like, wow, this is the most tense car ride I think I've ever been on. And you know, it's like I'm I'm the kind of person that like loves like genres. Like I love fantasy, I love science fiction, I love westerns and stuff like that. But like you know your movie's special if you can get me to be like, this is just a plain human drama, and I'm just like hooked. And I'm just
Mhm.
like, just when you can just feel those very human emotions and like really connect to characters, there's something special about that.
Agreed. What is the first drama that comes to mind that made you feel like that?
Ooh, that's a good question. Like the most recent one definitely was I was sitting watching that movie for 3 hours, just being like, wow, I'm like engrossed in this movie. This didn't feel like 3 hours, besides the fact that it was hot in the theater and I had a mask on the whole entire time. And I'm just like, when can I go out and get some water at this point? Because like I hate getting up during movies. I don't like missing anything.
Same.
But it's like, well, what's interesting is my number 1 film of 2021 was Belfast. And that's
I
from
wanted to see that. I love Katrina Balfe.
oh, she was amazing in it.
She's
So
phenomenal.
great. And like it has a wonderful sense of humor about it too, because everybody's just a bunch of sassy Irish people. But the thing is, it's like there was something special about just the family dynamics in it and just feeling the connection between these people. And then it was so lovely that we all as a family go into the movies. And at one point they see Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. And I'm just like, oh my God. I remember sitting and watching with my mom and my grandmom. And like those kind of special moments. It's like
Mhm.
if you could really get that hook in there and you can feel that connection with things, there's something special there.
Mhm.
So those are a couple of my recent ones. But you know, if you could do drama right, because to be frank, all movies are drama. There's
Yeah.
drama in everything. So that's why it feels like if we can make that connection with those characters, it's like that's why it's so important. But Val, do you have a particular favorite filmmaker?
Okay, so the two that I know multiple films from, because I don't know a lot of filmmakers, are
As
Wes
okay.
Anderson and Tarantino. Everybody knows him, I guess. Um, but yes, I like the kind of oddities of the Wes Anderson films, and um I guess Tarantino is a little bit, in a sense, a little odd too, but in a more
Especially
like,
when there's feet.
especially when there's what? Teeth?
Feet. I don't know if you've noticed, but he has a fixation with people's feet.
I did not know that.
You'll never
That's
be
so
able to
weird.
unsee that the next time, especially next time if you watch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. There's a lot of shots of people's feet.
Oh my god. First of all, phenomenal movie. I love
Yes.
that movie. But also now I have to look.
Now you can't unsee. Which it was funny is I wish Matt was here to talk about Tarantino because Matt and Alex, because every time I have Alex on this show, he really tries to not bring up Tarantino, but it always comes back to Tarantino. And he you could tell how much he loves movies and he just injects that into his movies. And like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood just breathed that like every single second. And I'm sitting here. I have a Rushmore, Royal Tenenbaums, and Life Aquatic of Steve Zissou poster hanging on my wall. So I love me some Wes Anderson too.
Awesome.
Did you
I
get a chance to see The French Dispatch?
No, I did not.
It is like the most Wes Anderson, like most Wes Anderson movie I think you'll ever see. And I loved it. I know some people don't like gel with how strange and quirky his movies are. I love every second of it.
Mhm. Yeah, it's very engaging because of how it's like quirky. Um Christoph Waltz was I think he was the perfect actor to be in one of his films because he's got this very interesting charisma about him.
Mhm.
And he can play a great good guy and a great villain. Um which is why I loved him in Django. And then which Wes Anderson was he in?
What's
Was he
interesting,
Grand Budapest?
he was just in he had a small role in The French Dispatch that just came out. There's
Okay.
like 50 million people in The French Dispatch, so I don't think that's saying a whole lot. I remember seeing the trailer for the first time and just being like, and this person, and this person, and this person, and this person, like two columns of just names. I'm like, how are all these people in this movie? But like Christoph Waltz, like obviously made a big impact in Tarantino films, but like, yeah, he just has such a just a presence about things. My favorite Wes Anderson's Grand Budapest, and oh my god, Ray Fiennes in that movie as Gustav H. It's just like I go to bed with all of my friends, and the guy just like dicks him in the face, it's like because he just admitted to sleeping with his elderly mother. But strange interactions. But what's your favorite Wes Anderson?
So Royal Tenenbaums was the first one I saw.
Mhm.
Um and then I think Life Aquatic and Grand Budapest Hotel were the next ones. I have not seen like a large number of his films, but um those were I think those are the most memorable ones to me.
Mhm.
Um I don't know which one's my favorite. I think maybe Grand Budapest Hotel because I remember it the most vividly. I love the kid who plays the
The lobby boy.
the lobby boy. Yeah.
Yeah. Zero. It's Tony Revelori, because he's so great. Him playing off with Ray Fiennes, and he's interesting. He's actually in all the new Spider-Man movies. He's one of the kids in the high school, and he's also on that show Servant, that M. Night Shyamalan show.
Oh my God, that's the same kid. I never thought of that.
Yeah.
I was just watching Servant with my boyfriend last night.
He's the one that they keep trying to like hook up with Leanne.
Yeah.
And it's just like, maybe they'll finally actually go on an actual date and like each other, because I feel like they keep awkwardly trying to make that happen.
They're so awkward.
2 seasons. But those are definitely some great choices there. Now, thinking about some people in front of the camera, who are some of your favorite actors and actresses?
Leonardo DiCaprio comes to mind. I think he is incredibly versatile in his roles. You always like know it's Leo DiCaprio when you see him, but like, you know, did you see him in Don't Look Up?
Which, you mean an astronomer I would like to F?
I like that. Yeah, I mean,
the question is, did they have that joke in the movie before they cast Leo, or did they make that joke after they cast Leo in the movie?
I would not be surprised if it were the latter. But it's funny because he played like a great nerdy professor.
Yeah.
But then he's been in like very violent movies like Django, like Blood Diamond, like, you know, and all these like tragic, like sad stories.
Yeah, the Calvin Candy was completely out of left field. And I remember when that first trailer came out for Django Unchained, and it's just like Leo there. That's like, you have my curiosity. Now you have my attention.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what? And he was sinister and a horrible human being.
Yes.
But you know, he's just intense and everything. Even what's so interesting too is his character in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Don't Look Up have the same really, really bad manic insecurity about things. Because like, and Leo plays that so well, which is so interesting, because like, I just assume that Leonardo DiCaprio is like the most confident actor in the world, because it's like, dude's just walking around with 20-year-old models all the time, not giving a crap about how he looks either.
I know. And I think he's going to be one of those actors who's just like a hot bachelor for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
Because he can be.
He can. So there you go. But yeah, it's so interesting because like, I remember seeing Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and first off, Brad Pitt is like the coolest human being in the world in that movie. And then, but like Leo is like him, like just shaking his like, I don't know, Cliff. And he's just like, I'm all washed up. And it's just like, yeah, that'll be the day when Leonardo DiCaprio is a washed up actor. But the thing is, he plays it so well. And then, yeah, he plays that like nerdy astronomer so perfectly.
Right. He's very believable,
Mm-hmm.
whoever he takes on. And that reminds me of who my favorite actress is.
Mm-hmm.
And I already mentioned this, Katrina Balfe. And yes, I've seen her on Outlander. And that's where I found out about her. Which is why I really wanted to see Belfast, but I kind of missed the boat on that. But she is, I don't question for a second that I'm watching a show when I see her on camera. Like, have you seen her on Outlander?
So to be honest, I had no idea who she was going into seeing Belfast, and then I'm just like, she killed it. Because like I knew like all the other actors in the movie, because like I know who Jamie Dornan is, and it is more than just 50 Shades of Grey. I feel bad because I'm hoping he gets in the same boat as Robert Pattinson, who for the longest time couldn't get away from Twilight, and now he's like a respected actor. I hope the same for Jamie Dornan because he deserves it, because he's actually a talented actor and deserves better than 50 Shades of Grey. But Katrina Balfe, like, she is so fantastic in Belfast, and like I looked her up. I'm like, who the hell is this? And then I saw like she was on that show for like years, and I'm like, okay, so that's why people know who she is. But I've never watched that show, so.
Well, I highly recommend it. I don't know if Jess would be interested in it, but I think it caters to both the male and female audiences because there's lots of action and there's lots of romance. So it's like a crowd pleaser.
There you go. It has a little bit of everything.
It's it's got a little bit of everything.
I will definitely add that to my spreadsheet. Where
Yeah,
I keep track of all my shows. I have to have a system. It's the only way this works.
You're a professional. You have to. Yeah, but she's definitely, I think she really takes the cake with like really just diving into her role and bringing a character to life.
Well, I know Belfast is on VOD now, so like you can rent it at home. So you'll have to let me know if you do get around to watching it, what you think of her. And like, I'm definitely interested to see Outlander now and see her in it, because I'm like, I loved her in Belfast. She was so great.
Yeah, I think you would really enjoy her performance. I am gonna have to look up where I can stream.
Generally, you can rent it on like Amazon. You can rent it on like Vudu and stuff like that. So it's on there. It's probably like $20 to rent though. That's the whole fun thing that they're doing now. It's like show a movie in theaters for like a couple weeks and then bam, you want to pay $20?
Right.
That's when you just have a bunch of people over.
And it's just to rent it. Like it'd be one thing if I was purchasing it, but that's more than a movie ticket these days, right?
That's a whole entire conversation that I've had with people about, because I remember like it's become a very interesting place, the world of movies, since COVID happened. And I never thought that I'd ever spend $20 renting movies, and I have done that quite a few times since this. But you know, sometimes you just really want to see a movie, and I'm like, I don't want to wait. So there you go. But I did get to see Belfast in a theater. I drove to Neshaminy, so I drove like 35 minutes, but I did it because it was worth it.
Yeah.
Now, Val, what's a movie that you could watch literally every day?
Lord of the Rings.
I kind of figured that might have been your answer, but I was still going to ask the question anyway.
Yes.
So I know we talked about that, but definitely a good choice. The only thing it has against it is like that is legitimately a commitment.
It is.
So
schedule cleared out for that. It's one of those movies that I watch and it's like getting wrapped in a blanket. Like it reminds me of childhood, and just like it's very nostalgic for me.
Yeah, the last time I watched Fellowship, I'm just like, that was 3 hours. This went by real quick.
Yeah, it's enjoyable every time.
Now, Val, what's a movie that you have a specific connection to because it relates to another interest of yours?
Freedom Writers.
Okay.
Have you seen it?
I feel like that's something that I probably watched in school at some point, or like I've seen parts of it. I don't think if I didn't watch it in school, I definitely haven't like sat and watched the whole thing, but I've definitely seen parts of it because Hilary Swank's in that, right? Yeah.
I love that movie because it's a really great demonstration of the power of writing and using writing as an outlet for your emotions, whether those are negative or positive ones, all your frustrations and struggles and joys and celebrations. And these kids in this movie, and it's based on all true stories, by the way, they're all so troubled, and their lives are changed by the character that Hilary Swank plays, the teacher. And I was an English major and was an editor for a number of years, and writing to me has always been my default outlet for, just like getting emotions out, processing my emotions and thoughts and opinions. And I think that movie is just a really good example of how powerful writing can be for that reason.
And I could definitely see that because, like, obviously, Val and I met because we were tutors, and you being a writing tutor, and it's interesting because, like, I loved reading and writing growing up as a kid, and it was funny because I wanted to be an author. That was one of the first things I wanted to be. And then, like, I hit into like middle school and high school, and then started realizing like numbers are a lot more of my thing because, like, I love to read and I love to write, but I was never really confident with it. I was always confident with math because, like, it's easier if you're good at math to feel confident about because, like, there's answers. So, like, I know how to get the answer here. Writing's a much more abstract kind of thing in terms of like feelings. Like, there's no feelings in math. It's just like you can do it or you can't. And what I've loved so much over the past couple of years is doing all the writing that I'm doing. And especially I've gotten more opportunities to do like special kinds of articles, and really getting to flesh out because, like, perfect example, I have one of my series, the Wasteland Vintage Roadshow, where I go like a deep dive into a classic film. And my gauge is like it's at least 10 years old. And the first one that I wrote about was Lord of the Rings. And it isn't just like, it's not just a review. It's like it gives a lot of fleshes out perspective and like my own personal connections. Cause like I even did one on like Top Gun, and half of the article was me writing about how much I played the soundtrack to Top Gun growing up. Cause like I was never a hugest fan of the movie, but boy did I play that soundtrack all the time. But like writing is such a personal thing, and where it's like you have your voice and being able to find that. And like I could definitely appreciate like a film like that being able to inspire you about writing.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a very cathartic form of art, in my opinion.
Now, shifting gears a little bit, so who's a movie character that you feel like you connect with on a personal level?
I would have to say the lead in this movie called Speak, which is based off a book.
Oh,
Do you know it?
I think I read Speak at some point.
Okay.
And I'm trying to remember if I had to read that for school. I'm pretty sure I had to read that for school.
I wouldn't be surprised. I didn't read it for school, but I know it was like in one of those like scholastic book lists or something.
Oh, that brings back some memories.
Scholastic book fairs were my favorite part of like the school year.
Yep.
So I read the book in high school, and well, like most people, we're like still like learning who we are and kind of figuring ourselves out. And the main character in Speak was also in high school and going through the same process. And she kind of goes through this traumatic event, and it helps her eventually grow into a more mature person and able to find her voice, which is, speaks to the title. It's about finding your voice. And I think I related to that because I've always been kind of a reserved and more quiet person. And I just, because of that, I've typically been hesitant to voice my opinions. But as I've gotten older, I've become more confident and capable in being more vocal about my thoughts. So I appreciated that story. It was kind of like a very condensed version of learning how to speak up for yourself.
That was a great answer. I really appreciated that. And it's a very thoughtful answer too. And I can relate to that too, especially because like before college, I said like 10 sentences a day. So now I don't shut up, as you all can tell with all of these lovely videos that I do. But it's so important being able to like find your voice and advocate for yourself, and being able to like put yourself out there, because like especially when you become an adult, you have to do that stuff. And it's just like, as a kid, usually it's your parents and stuff like that advocate for you. It's like, now as adults, like you kind of have to do this stuff on your own. And you have to make sure you're being treated right and being able to do that. I have only a couple more here, but so Val, what's a film that you love that you think would surprise people?
I have two.
Okay.
One is Aliens, and two is Django Unchained. I hate gore. Like I hate violence in movies. I shut my eyes. I feel the pain of the characters. Like I cannot deal with it. But Sigourney Weaver is a complete badass, and I just cannot help loving anything that she does, literally. And then Django, I mean, amazing cast, obviously. And yes, there were parts that I did not physically watch, but
you mean the assault on Candyland, because their body parts just like flying everywhere.
I know. But like, if it's the right storyline, if there's a strong plot, which there was, strong characters, and what my favorite part is like that delivery of justice, so satisfying. It just feels so good. So that is why I love that movie. I don't know if those surprise you, but
it's funny because Steven deserved it. He got his comeuppance at the end of Django Unchained. And because it's funny because I feel like there's a very stereotypical, like, this is what a Quentin Tarantino fan looks like. And it's some like college age guy that has like a Pulp Fiction poster in his dorm room. And Aliens is interesting because Jess also loves Aliens. Yeah, and I think that might have been one of her answers to that question when I had her on, because like Aliens is amazing, and like Ripley is one of the coolest female characters ever put on screen. And the second she comes out in that like walker thing, it's just like, get your claws off her, you bitch, and just goes to town and just like, yep. She got nominated for an Oscar for that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, she got nominated for lead actress for Aliens. That's unheard of.
Has she won any since?
That's a good question. I'm trying to think if she's even been nominated for any other Oscars. My guess might have been Working Girl. I have to check that actually. Fact check Shane over here. I have to chuckle though every time I hear Sigourney Weaver's name now. I don't know if you've seen Finding Dory, but
no, I haven't.
Sigourney Weaver's in it because she does all the voiceover stuff at the water, like the ocean park that they go to. It's like, hi, I'm Sigourney Weaver and welcome to, and just playing in the background all the time.
I love
but
that.
No, she's been nominated for 3 Academy Awards. She got nominated for lead actress for Aliens. And I'm trying to see what else. Best Supporting Actress for Working Girl. I did know that one. And what was the last one? And then she went on with, it might have been her playing Jane Goodall in Gorillas in the Mist.
Oh.
But yeah, it's like, you never see anybody get nominated for acting awards for like genre movies. And like this movie's literally about like aliens and stuff like that. And Oscars, sometimes they're like, okay, we can't even like joke about this. It's like, she was amazing, so she's getting nominated for lead actress. But yeah, Aliens is great, and the whole cast of characters in that movie from like Bill Paxton being like, it's over, man. And him, and then of course like Michael Biehn was so popular in the mid to late 80s with Terminator and Aliens, and that's just such a cool, awesome movie. And it makes me, sit here, I'm like, why is James Cameron wasting the rest of his career just making endless Avatar sequels?
You say that because I recently saw a meme about like, oh, every year James Cameron says he's coming out with Avatar and then doesn't, because
when
like,
Avatar 2 is supposed to come out?
When?
This December.
Allegedly.
It's been allegedly coming out in December since 2016. I'm pretty sure. So I'm convinced it is not coming out this December, and I'm just waiting for Disney to just be like, just kidding, you're gonna wait like another 5 years.
It's like, why bother announce it? Just wait till you're actually done with it and then advertise it.
It's all about the movie slates, though. They're like, we're gonna have an Avatar movie come out this year, and then a Star Wars movie come out this year, and then another Avatar movie come out this year. But COVID just completely just wrecked all of that. So I don't know. I really don't think it's coming out this year. But I will eat my words on my channel if I'm reviewing Avatar 2 come December and just being like, I will say it in my video. I'm like, I said at the beginning of this year, this is not coming out. I was wrong. I really don't think I'm going to be wrong, though.
One day, hopefully.
One day that movie will actually come out. Because like he filmed 4 movies back to back to back to back. Or something crazy like that. So like once they're done, we're going to get like Avatar sequels for like years in a row. But like, it's just taken him since 2008. Oh, no, 2009?
No, I think you're right.
So either way, that's a really long time in between movies. And you know what's crazy? He's only released one narrative film since Titanic in 1997, and that was Avatar.
Really?
James Cameron has like 8 movies total.
What do you mean narrative? Like, what's a not?
So he has done deep sea documentaries.
Okay.
Yeah, so like I know he's done a couple of films where like they go to the bottom of the ocean and stuff like that, because like not only is he an amazing director, but he invents all kinds of technology and stuff like that for his movies, and apparently goes like ridiculous deep sea diving. Like Titanic was a passion project of him actually going down into the ocean, like looking at the Titanic and stuff like that. So, and also the whole entire second Avatar movie apparently is mostly shot underwater.
Are you serious?
So look up Kate Winslet, Avatar 2, and you will see a picture of her in a CGI suit underwater filming a scene for Avatar 2.
Oh my gosh.
So
does that have something to do with the way that they move in that world or something? Like, why?
So apparently they're exploring all the different societies in Pandora. So like this is like an ocean society, and like it's actually under the sea. So like I'm never going to argue that James Cameron is not a bold and incredible director, but man, just put out a movie already. You've been putting this off for too long. And deep down, I really wish he was just making Terminator sequels instead of Avatar. But that's just personally me, because I love the first 2 Terminators, and he was the only one to make really great ones. Because everything after that has been like, what are you doing? But I digress. Because my last question for you, Val, is what do you love most about movies?
I really enjoy becoming really immersed into another person's story. I've always found stories to be the core of what I do and love, like writing. Obviously, it's as a musician, I love songwriting as another way of telling stories and listening to other musicians' songs. and learning their stories and their backgrounds. And I think movies are just one more, method of telling stories. And it's the most important thing I think that we need to continue to do as humans. Like humankind survives, or I just think storytelling is really critical in keeping our stories alive, and documenting history and stuff. So
Definitely.
whether it's fictional or not, like I think it's just the core of what films are able to communicate. So
I really appreciate that. And I'm actually going to ask you something after we're done recording, specifically about the songwriting thing.
sure.
But because I don't want to keep this going keep dragging this out at this point. But that was my last question, Val. So it's a wild card time. So my guest gets to ask me a question. So what would you like to ask the Wasteland Reviewer?
Okay. Tell me, because we were discussing Power of the Dog before we started recording, tell me what you think is the reasoning behind it being critically acclaimed. You know my reasons for believing.
Yeah.
So I just want to hear it from an expert.
So to be honest, I know a lot of it's getting awards buzz for the acting, obviously, and I think the acting is really incredible, especially I feel bad for Jesse Plemons because I feel like he's the only one not getting Oscar buzz because because Benedict Cumberbatch is definitely getting a lot of attention for Best Actor, Kirsten Dunst for Supporting Actress, and Cody Smith-McPhee has won a couple awards already for Best Supporting Actor, who plays the son. The acting is really strong. The actual direction, the filmmaking is really impressive. Like honestly, what it reminded me a lot of, and I'm a huge fan of this film, it reminded me a lot of There Will Be Blood. And from a tone and an atmosphere, and it might 100% have to do with the fact that this is that kind of period of Western where it's the turn of the century, and also Johnny Greenwood's score from Radiohead, because he did both scores. And I'm just sitting there and I could feel this creepy atmospheric score. I'm like, wait a minute. Am I watching There Will Be Blood again? And
he did the score. That's actually
he had quite the month because he had this and Spencer, that Princess Diana film that came out. He did the score for too, and they're both great scores. It's either going to be Johnny Greenwood winning the Oscar or Hans Zimmer for Dune. It's going to be one of the two of them.
what was the last movie?
Dune.
Oh yeah.
Because I saw Dune in the theater and sitting there, I'm like, my God, the sound design of this movie is ridiculous. And Hans Zimmer's score was so creepy. So creepy. But I think there's I feel like The Power of the Dog is one of those kinds of films where it's just you could just see the critic being the subtext.
I know. It's there's pretentious people out there who are saying things like that, and I'm not saying there's nothing good about the movie, but
to be fair, I'm sitting here thinking that worked for me for this one, so maybe I'm one of those pretentious critics.
No, I
try
know
not to be.
I know you're not, but it is funny because I was looking at Rotten Tomatoes and what do people think about this, and it was interesting because my family and I were talking about it for 1 to 2 days after watching it. So even though we all agreed that we disliked it the night of, we're maybe it's better than we think. We're still talking about it.
Well, that's the interesting thing too, because I was thinking about that movie for days, and it was that thing. And I mentioned to you, it took until the credits started to roll. It was one of those things where there's certain movies where you're just oh, that was so great. But wait a minute. That didn't make any sense. but why did that person do that? But what? This movie felt like the opposite for me because like I don't know if I loved it as much sitting and watching it. And I'm like, that was really well done, stuff like that. And the credits are rolling like, but wait a minute, wait a second. And like things just started falling into place in my head. I'm like, this hits on a whole different other level than I was like grasping while sitting and watching the film. And I feel like that's something that goes a long way. If like a movie can affect you in that way after you watched it and you're just sitting there like, because I call them, this is a weird way of phrasing this, but I call them like the earwig like kind of thing where it just sometimes a movie just like crawls up into your head and it's just sitting there for a long time. And for some reason, like months later, I'll just be sitting there thinking about why do I want to watch this movie again? And I feel like I'm gonna definitely have that feeling with this movie at some point. But like I've even I've sat and contemplated some films recently that are like I remember watching them and just being like, oh, I enjoyed that. But like I love them now. And it's just something that just sits and gestates. And one of them I got a chance to write about this a little bit too is a film called The Hustler. And have you seen The Hustler?
Is that the one with Jennifer Lawrence?
That's American Hustle.
Oh.
Yeah, so The Hustler is a 60s film with Paul Newman, George C. Scott, and Jackie Gleason in it about a young pool shark named Fast Eddie. And I remember watching it for the first time, and honestly, I think it also might have been like I watched it when I was in college, and like 21-year-old Shane didn't have the same appreciation for it as 30-year-old Shane. And I've definitely had those moments with Scorsese movies. I watched some of his in high school. I'm like, what was this? There was just a bunch of guys yelling the F word at each other. And then now I'm sitting here like, my God, this movie's profound.
Yeah.
But like, now I sit and think about The Hustler sometimes, and like I just wrote an article about its sequel film, Color of Money, because I'm going through all of Scorsese's films, and he made a sequel to The Hustler. And like Paul Newman came back, and now he's the grizzled old pool shark, and Tom Cruise is the young upstart pool shark. And this one came out in the 80s. And now I'm like, I was sitting there, I'm like, I love The Hustler. And like that was one of, and sometimes it happens, like I'll get a movie and watch them. Like, I don't know if I really like this enough to keep it. And then like I would sell it to Princeton Record Exchange. And now I'm sitting here like, why did I ever sell that? And I'm going to wind up buying this again. So I try not to do those things anymore. Just let that gestate a bit. But
Well, first of all, thank you for bringing that memory back to the forefront of my mind. I loved Princeton Record Exchange.
So much money.
You should go back and see if they still have it. Maybe some.
That same copy is still sitting there all these years later.
You never know.
You never know.
Or maybe another 1-year-old brought it back because he was like, oh, I don't relate to this.
But yeah, I think like I'm interested because I didn't look at the audience rating of The Power of the Dog. I can imagine that being one of those movies where it's like critic rating like 90-something% and audience like, what was this? So it definitely has that kind of vibe. It's not something like Belfast where I think like everybody can just have like a really good feeling about it leaving it.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, sometimes you have to have that. And sometimes you have the Oscars like last year and you look at all the nominees and like these were all depressing. And sometimes it just works out that way.
Depressing isn't always bad.
It's not. And I think like as like a cinephile who loves film, I can sit and just be emotionally devastated by a movie and just appreciate how great this was at destroying my emotions.
Mm.
And then some people are just like, no, I can't watch that. I need a happy ending. I'm like, it's my mom. She does not like it when it doesn't have a nice happy ending at the end. Which is why I'm very choosy about what movies I take my mom to go see. Fast and Furious presents Hobbs and Shaw guaranteed to have a happy ending, and it had Jason Statham and The Rock in it. So she was very happy.
Right up her alley.
But I digress. But that was a good question, and obviously very relevant because, you know, I'm definitely going to be sitting there with the Oscars on March 27th, being like, how many awards is this movie going to win? I'm kind of pulling for Benedict Cumberbatch to win, but there's a lot of great leading actors this year. I still think Will Smith might win it.
What did you see? What was he in?
King Richard. He played the dad of Venus and Serena Williams.
That's right. I remember seeing the trailer. So that's came out already?
That came out on HBO Max and in theaters. Was that October? So, no, it was November. Yeah.
Okay.
It might be coming back to HBO Max soon, to be honest.
Okay.
Because I don't think it had like a long theatrical window like most movies right now. Because like not a whole lot of movies are making a ton of money right now, to be perfectly honest. Unless you're SpiderMan or Ghostface. Because I had a blast with Scream. But like honestly, not a whole lot of movies are making a ton of money right now. But you know, that's one of the nice things about like VOD is a lot of these movies are coming out pretty quickly. It's just a matter of, is $20 worth it? And that's the question.
Right. Was King Richard worth $20?
I'd probably wait for that one to be a little bit cheaper. Like it's a really good, it winds up being a pretty strong feel good sports biopic. And like Will Smith's great in it. But like, I never felt like King Richard was like, this is a movie I have to like check out as soon as possible. Mm-hmm. Like generally, like, as you can see, I own a lot of movies. I wait until they get below $10 before I buy them. Because if I didn't, I would have no money. So, but the thing is, it's like, there's some movies where I have to go out and buy, like, I remember when Blade Runner 2049 came out on Blu-ray, I went out and bought that the day of and watched it that night because I'm like, I need to rewatch this movie. But a lot of times, like, I'm fine waiting because, you know, I have a lot of other things to watch. So many things. But Val, this was a great conversation. Had a lot of fun chatting movies with you. I really appreciate you coming on.
I appreciate you inviting me. I also really enjoyed it.
Awesome. And thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.